January is over. It was a pretty slow month for me, and I wasn't really planning on making this video until I changed my mind like a few days ago. Looking back, it is sad and hilarious that the last video was January of last year. Better late than never, I suppose. I started the month and the year with Seurat. This film surprised me. It follows a father searching for his missing daughter across the desert, and as simple as that may sound, it's more than what the premise led on. It's kind of hard to further explain without ruining the experience, because part of what makes Seurat an incredible film is its unpredictability. Some of you may find its first act empty and hollow, others may find the film boring, and may walk away feeling the whole thing was kind of meaningless and void of any character depth, but I disagree. It explores so many facets of the human condition, though subtly, but still felt in many of its sequences. I would also remiss if I didn't talk about the film's excellent use of sound, particularly within its score. It is heart-pounding. Like I said, it is best to watch Seurat without knowing too much about it, but if you want a unique audio-visual experience, do check it out whenever and wherever it becomes available. Then I watched 100 Meters. In the running for one of my favorite animated films of 2025, the film tells the story of two runners competing in the titular race following multiple stages of their lives. I think what I love about the story is that it goes beyond the typical trope of friend turned rival, as here the rivalry is more professional rather than emotional. It's not like they had a falling out or one of them went behind their backs or whatever, which I appreciate a lot. This allows the story to focus more on the personal side of things, asking each of our characters the simple question of why they run in the first place, and the result is a film that's more philosophical than one may expect it to be. Another aspect that I really loved is how mature and down-to-earth the characters behave. They don't act like characters, they act like people, if that makes sense, and this is all thanks to the film's approach of using rotoscoping. Not every scene is rotoscope, but the ones that are tend to be a lot better and more expressive in my opinion. Sometimes I do wonder if the original plan was to have it all rotoscope, but regardless, it was an incredible experience, fantastic film. I also finished watching Pluribus. This is from the creators of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Pluribus follows our main protagonist Carol as she suddenly becomes one of the only few in the world that's unaffected by an alien virus that turned the rest of humanity into a hive mind. I came in with pretty high expectations, and frankly, I'd say most of those expectations were met. The show is also surprisingly meditative in its approach. Like, I wasn't expecting the Fly episode from Breaking Bad to be an entire series, but here we are. Much like that infamous episode, some may find the show to be slow or boring. I've also seen criticism that the show is a bit self-indulgent, and the weird thing is, I don't think these criticisms are inherently wrong. I'm just not bothered by it. Yes, the pacing can be slow at times. Yes, some shots and moments linger longer than they need to. And you know what? In an age where I'm seeing more and more mainstream films and shows edited in breakneck speed, Pluribus was kind of a welcome change of pace. This month, I also finished Orb on the movements of the Earth. Sharing the same original author of 100 Meters, Orb follows multiple characters and their journey to prove that the Earth revolves around the sun. If you think an anime about the discovery of heliocentrism sounds boring, then I am here to tell you that you're wrong. You're just wrong. You're wrong. Orb is perhaps one of the most engaging stories I've experienced in a long while, beautifully capturing the joy of discovery and the consequence of knowledge. The show dives deeper into each of our characters' philosophies and does it extensively. I don't think there's a single main character that I dislike. Each of our point of view characters provide an interesting and oftentimes thought-provoking worldview, including the show's main antagonist Novak, who, in my opinion, is the best in the series. If you watch Vinland Saga, then believe me when I say Orb gave me the exact same feeling as that show did. This is a celebration of history and its unsung heroes, and if you haven't already, go check this one out. Then I started season 2 of Frieren Beyond Journey's End. As of recording, only 3 episodes are available, so there isn't much to say right now, but as someone who loved the first season, this new one feels exactly the same, which, of course, is a good thing. If you don't know what Frieren is about, basically we are following our main character Frieren as she journeys across the continent years after she and her party of heroes defeated the Demon King and brought peace across the land, hence Beyond Journey's End. I won't get too much into the details, but in regards to the second season, I can only give it nothing but praise. The show's production quality is as high as ever, the score by Evan Call is still as magical and transportive as the first seasons, and the characters we follow are still fun and likable to watch. There's really not much for me to say here, like I said, but I will give more thoughts once the season ends. I also started watching A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. This is the third Game of Thrones spin-off following House of the Dragon, and yeah, it's pretty good. Much like Frieren, I don't have much to say at this point other than I think it looks great. Sir Duncan is an instant favorite with his personality and unintentional comedic moments. Egg is also interesting and I cannot wait to see how their dynamic grows. And as someone who has not read the books, I'm curious to see where the story goes in terms of scale. Because the thing that grabbed my attention in the first episode, besides its more light-hearted tone, is how it feels smaller in scale compared to the multiple houses and world-ending scenarios of Game of Thrones. This is also a really short season, so I'll definitely talk more about this later in February. This month, I also replayed one of my favorite video games, Red Dead Redemption 2. I feel like plenty has been said about the game's narrative, and I'm not really bringing anything new to the table. But replaying the game after so many years, I'm glad that I rolled credits loving and appreciating the journey even more. The game is rich in detail both on a technical level and especially within its narrative. Arthur Morgan remains one of my favorite video game characters to not only play as, but to also study on. Dutch van der Linde is perhaps one of the most layered and nuanced character in the entire game, more so than people may give him credit for. There are characters that serve more as personified representations. There are missions that beautifully symbolizes the current psychologies of the characters involved. The list goes on. Another aspect of the game that I loved even more now is the game's journal, and letting it be an actual in-game item and not part of a menu not only adds to the immersion, but the genius behind it is the contents inside adds another layer to Arthur's character. The journal acts more like a diary than a simple recap of events. You are reading Arthur's inner thoughts, his real feelings, his real emotions, his real self in a way. And this also applies to many aspects in the game as well, like choosing to interact and talk to your friends at camp, taking care of your horse and maximizing your bonding, helping strangers and engaging with side content. Like, all of this is optional and somewhat inconsequential to the grand scheme of things, but choosing to engage with most of what the game offers does have its narrative and thematic benefits far more than most open world video games that I have played. And then I ended the month with Kiki's Delivery Service. This is one of my few Studio Ghibli blind spots, but I'm glad I finally got to watch this. The film follows our titular character as she struggles to fit in and find her place in the big city, ultimately providing a delivery service to the city's residents. I think what struck me the most now that I've sat on this film for a few days is how pretty digestible it really is. I look at Miyazaki's other works like Princess Mononoke or The Wind Rises or Nausicaa or even Spirited Away, and there's no denying that there's a lot going on in those films. There's forest gods, there's political intrigue, a vast and rich world that's filled with history, and Kiki's all about a young witch trying to get a job. And honestly, I like that. Not only is Kiki a much more relatable character given her circumstances and desire, but the film also has this air of groundedness to it that brilliantly goes against all of the whimsy and fun that our main protagonist had. The film is a coming-of-age story, it's a social commentary, it's about self-love, it's about a lot of things, and yet it presents itself so innocently compared to the studio's other works, and that's ultimately what makes this movie special to me. And that's every story I experienced in January. Let me know what stories you experienced in January in the comments. Thank you for watching. Peace.